We'd like to, on behalf of the Ministry of Information, Cultural Affairs and Tourism, to say a big thank you to the management and staff of the Liberia Broadcasting System, most especially the technicians who have ensured that LBI is back. We'd like to appreciate members of the community radio station for ensuring that our broadcast is simulcast live within the various communities and our media team here at the Ministry of Health. I'd like to inform you, members of the public, that you can join us live on LNTV Facebook page. KNTV is also streaming online, Bridge TV, WAP TV, Hot TV, and repeat of Hot TV is 10 p.m. tonight. We also like to inform you that the Ministry of Health Facebook page is also streaming this update live. I'd like to invite the Deputy Minister for Press and Public Affairs, Honorable Eugene Fagon, who will officially introduce to you our speakers. Minister Fagon is ably assisted by the Assistant Minister for Information Services, Honorable Daniel N. Thomas. Minister.
Thank you, Director Fambula. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, on behalf of His Excellency President Dr. George Manawia, I'd like to officially welcome you here, also in the name of my able Minister, Honorable Eugene Nangbe, and that of our host, the Minister of Health, the Honorable Dr. Wilhelmina Jala. Again, today brings us to another COVID-19 press update. As you are aware, Dr. Jala will be assisted by Dr. Masoka Fala, head of the National Public Health Institute, along with Dr. Francis Kete, Chief Medical Officer of the Republic of Liberia. We'll now call on Dr. Wilhelmina Jala.
To our President, members of the Cabinet, members of the Legislature and the Judiciary, and Liberian citizens, foreign nationals residing in Liberia, to our partner, the media, to our international partners, and all those who are listening to another message brought by us from the Ministry of Health. Usually my messages are the same. Let me start by saying, protect yourself and others around you by knowing the facts and taking appropriate precaution. I usually like to give you some of the symptoms of COVID-19 because I think the more you hear it and you examine yourself, you will know something is not right, and you will find yourself at the testing center, or you report on 4455. The number for today is 105 confirmed cases, but the others will elaborate a little bit more. What are some of the symptoms that people will come up with? There are more, but I will list these, and as time goes on, I will add them up. You will have fever, tiredness, a dry cough, stuffy nose, a bitter taste in the mouth. You might lose the sense of smell. Like I said, when you lower your head, you will feel uncomfortable or pain in your eyes. Coughing, sneezing, runny nose could also be there, but you will be very tired. Some of the symptoms will look like malaria or typhoid, and I have heard from a lot of people that they have been treating themselves for malaria and typhoid. If there's no result, please don't hesitate to go to the testing center at SKD or the screening or sample collection center, not testing, but sample collection center at SKD. Now, we'll also give you what are some of the precautions that you should be taking. Clean your hands often. Use soap and water or alcohol-based hand rub. So soap and water will do the job, or if you are in the street and you are not near any soap and water, you can use an alcohol-based swab. Maintain a safe distance from anyone around you or people who are coughing and sneezing. And we as Liberians seem to have difficulty with that particular part. We don't want to say social distancing, we want to say stay away from other people or stay a safe distance from others. We are not satisfied with what we are seeing outside. We are not complying, we are non-compliant. Please, banks, around the banks, in the markets, and other places, please maintain your distance from other people. Try not to touch your eyes and your nose, because if the virus is on your hands, you can contaminate yourself by touching your eyes or your nose. If you are feeling sick, stay home, call 4455, and we will come there to investigate. If you are not very sick, don't crowd all of the facilities. Go there if you need help, and you will be helped. Some of the things that we need to look at. Yesterday, a lady in a pickup truck was dropped off on the street in front of Baptist Seminary. Nobody knew who dropped the lady off and why they dropped her off there. Please do not start dropping old people. This was an older lady. Please, Liberians, do not stop dropping your relatives on the road and leaving. The lady is now at one of the institutions, one of our POCs. So if, I think her name was Fatima. If You can't, if your relative is missing this morning, or if somebody in your neighborhood is missing, that could be that lady. It is so sad. We haven't even gone anywhere with COVID-19 and people start abandoning their relatives on the side of the road. We also want to appeal to all of us as we approach checkpoints. Please behave yourself. Show your proper ID and talk to the officers nicely. Also, the appeal goes the other way to the officers. If people are showing their ID cards and they're telling you what they are doing, please do not hold them for 4 hours or 5 hours. Call your commander and get some information or some advice from him, because we have gotten people that have been held for many, many hours. But we also want to thank you for cooperating. If we keep trying to get you to stay within your community or within your county, and many people are persistently trying to leave to go to another county. If you are just going there to take rights to somebody, the military and the police, the joint security, will not allow you to go. So please remain in your county. Stay put, because if you keep crossing from county to county, you are going to be taking the disease from county to county. So we're giving you that advice. We will also want to say that in a few days, we will have other specimen collection sites around the areas that we consider hot spots. So we'll be encouraging people to go, either you drive in or you walk in, or whatever way that you will get there, please go. We need to increase the number of tests that we are doing per day so that we can apply the proper interventions to begin to see COVID-19 decline. If we are all non-compliant and we all keep thinking that we need to be next to each other or doing those things that we say don't do because you do not believe, it's going to be a long haul for all of us. You look at other countries, the people are already tired of being in the house and they are complying. If we do not comply, we will be under some type of restrictions for a very long time. So please, let us all do the right thing so that we can pass by COVID-19. Getting COVID-19, again, I will say that it's not something to be ashamed of. Getting COVID-19 is not something to be ashamed of. Nobody should stigmatize somebody else, whether they are in your neighborhood or they are in your house. Please do not stigmatize them. This disease is easy to spread and it's easy to get. Right now, as we're sitting, maybe if we test all of us in here, I'm sure somebody will test positive, because you don't have to have symptoms to be positive. So that's why we are encouraging you to wear a mask. Sooner or later, we're hoping that we come up with a regulation that says you cannot come outside of your house without a mask. If you go into the bank, you don't have a mask, the bank must not serve you. If you go to the market and you don't have a mask, the market person must not serve you. The mask has been made. Handkerchief can be worn. We see a lot of people with homemade masks. We all can get one. I don't think the government is in a position right now to go and make 1 million or 5.2 million masks. But we asking individual groups to please help to provide the cloth mask so that everybody has a mask. Also, make a mask or two and give it to somebody else. But besides having a mask, you got to make sure you wash those masks at the end of the day so that it be fresh and clean for the next day. Because we don't want you to get the infection because your mask was contaminated. But the day is coming soon that we will compel you to have a mask if you will be outside. So start getting your mask together before that announcement is made. Please get a mask. And don't wear the mask under your chin or over your head. Put it over your nose and your mouth. Because a lot of people think it's a fashion. It's not. The mask cannot protect you if it's under your chin or over your head. It have to be covering your nose and your mouth. So please, let us continue to follow the rules and regulations that we are giving you so that we can end COVID-19. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Minister, for such, and I hope everyone was listening. We do have with us, we've been joined now by the Deputy Inspector General for Police, Colonel Marvin Sarkar. He's here, and he will be coming up later. But for now, we will invite the Honorable Dr. Masuka Fala to come out and speak to you, members of the media, as well as the Liberian people. Dr. Fala, please start the preparation for your mask, because sooner you will be made to wear one when you're leaving your homes. Once you come into the street or into a public facility, you must have on a mask sooner.
Thank you, Minister Falcon. We also want to thank the Minister of Health for those key health tips. And basically, we want to give you more information on the epidemiology of the disease. As the Minister said, we now have about 105 cases. Sadly enough, measures have been put in place to ring-fence Mosorado in order to prevent diseases from leaving the county. But as we know, this morning I was looking at the data. Sierra Leone was one of the last countries to have gotten coronavirus. They now have jumped to 50. It makes our mind reflect on all the things we try to put in place to prevent Liberia from having a case, and it does. The rate at which it is spreading, the fact that we have asymptomatic spreader, and those who can spread before they show symptoms, means we got to tighten our belt. At the end of the day, it's going to be at the individual level. The decision we'll make as individual, because who will imagine that we'll have a case in Sino? The government has done everything, created choke points all around the city to have the military deploy and the police. But we do know that at the end of the day, this disease will be continued by individual level decisions. The decision to wear masks, the decision to stay home, the decision to interact less and less with people. Last night I was reading about one of the Japanese scientists who were telling the Japanese people that the only way they were going to contain the disease, that everyone needed to reduce their interaction from 10 persons to about 2 persons at minimum during this period. And so those are going to be individual level decisions we'll make, and these decisions we'll make as individuals will come back together in the communities. I will have to say one of the things that have impressed me a lot since we introduced the lockdown is the group of young people we see all along our roads and our checkpoints, setting up the ropes, and asking us to wash our hands. It just reminds me of what we saw in Ebola. Once the community gets to that level where they begin to be responsible for their own protection, then we can make the biggest change we want to make. We have a case in Krenkru. We have now 2 cases in Nima. One is in Ganta, one is in Tapeta. And both are deceased. Sinona has a case, and the rest of the cases are in Mosoraro County. Our greater challenge will be the next coming weeks. Counties that do not have cases, how do we protect them? And I was reading about the China model in many of the cities. They were doing maximum multiple checkpoints, and screening at all of those checkpoints has to happen. Massive movement has to be reduced, like the minister said. It's going to be individual level decision. Why do you want to take a disease to your people? It's better we stay within the confines of Mosoraro County and try to fight the disease. Even within Mosoraro County, as we look at the epidemiology of the disease, we see that certain communities have more disease spread than others. We need to start making some decisions how people within those communities can either stay within the confines of their communities, or we set up checkpoints as was done in China. They set up checkpoints basically around cities. They broke all the region into high, low, and medium risks. If you're a high risk hotspot, they kept that place ring fenced. Anyone living in those communities had temperature taken, and then they have screening procedure. That's going to be very important to do even within Mosoraro County. Even within our overall cases, 32 of these people are our healthcare workers, and sadly one of them have died. It is not strange and surprising. Even in China, where in Wuhan the disease started, the first hospital, 41% of all the healthcare workers were infected. What we realized from our lesson with Ebola is that the hospitals serve as amplification zones. Religious leaders, healthcare workers, influential, what we call super spreaders. By the behavior of healthcare workers, the fact that they treat themselves and others go to them for treatment, they are what we call super spreaders. So whenever a disease enters a health facility, it tends to amplify. And so we have our workers. It is our duty to continue to protect them. But the reality of the matter is that as long as this disease continues to spread, the people at the greatest risk are going to be the healthcare workers. Those that run the clinic, the medicine store, and those in the big hospital. One of the things I'm going to be proposing in the coming of days, as I studied China deeper and deeper over the last few days, what was done in China, basically they were able to identify all of the health facilities and then streamline the health facility into strategic fewer clinics. What the MCC task force has done, we have to give them the credit, is that they've been able to map out all buildings in Mosoraro County, all clinics in Mosoraro County, all mosques in Mosoraro County. Our duty is to take that data now and turn that data and say, okay, in this district there are 50 clinics. How many of the 50 clinics we want to open for 2 weeks and channel everyone there and then protect the other clinics? That's what we're doing in China, to have this, what they call fewer clinic. Basically, when you come with fewer, you are triaged, you are referred, and you are tested. It's going to be that massive level, basically testing and triage at a massive level will give us the level of testing we want. I was reviewing in Ghana. Right now, every 100 cases test, 99 of them are negative and 1 is positive. It's going to be that kind of massive level of scale up in testing. And the other way to control, besides testing, is to be able to isolate high-risk contact into quarantine center that we call POC in Liberia. All Liberia will have 77 POCs, 15 high-risk contact in Grand Cru, Mosoraro has 35 now, and Nima has 27. That number will have to continue to increase. But the question we begin to ask ourselves for the public, if that number increases dramatically beyond our capacity, what do? We do know that in Europe and other countries, they are now allowing for home quarantine with support from the communities. The control of this disease, I will re-emphasize, is going to be individual level decisions within the communities. That is going to be our greatest strength. At the close of and the Ebola, the president said at the time, it begins with the community and it ends with the community. It's going to be our individual level decisions with the community. The good news about it is that we have around 20 persons who have been treated and recovered. Much as people are afraid of COVID with all of its stigma, but in terms of its ability to cause death, it's not equal to Ebola, because 50% of all those who got Ebola overall since 1976 has been shown to die. For this disease, we know it's 4 to 6%. which means even nothing is done, 80% of all those that get the disease will recover. It's their common flu and cold. And so we are happy to see that those who reported to the treatment center, 20 of them have recovered, and now they are recovering in the next phase of their journey to join society. That's a good thing, so that should give you encouragement. Don't to be afraid to get tested. It's only 20% who have comorbidity or because of their age will degenerate into severe condition. And even of that 20%, only 5% of them will get worse to the point that they die. So you have a 95% chance of surviving if you present and get treated compared to, say, Ebola, where you know is 1 in 5. That's why when the breakthrough was done in the DRC for the treatment protocol that increases it to 90%, it showed our breakthrough. So you have, it's not a disease to be afraid, it's a disease that one can welcome. Finally, the last piece for the control of a disease, other than isolating and quarantining high risks, testing, and the issue of the drive-through testing, our data have shown that most of the cases we are getting now are from drive-through. 1 in 3 of the cases that come positive are from the drive-through, which tell us 2 key things. People are conscious to be tested, and people that go to be tested are the ones who are able to give us the information that we need. What that means is that we can now scale up the drive-through testing to other strategic places and get more people tested. The last part of this disease control is contact tracing. Everything ends at the fundamental level, finding the contact and following up the contact. We now have 1,436 contact overall. Of that, 1,258 from Australia alone. When we were doing contact tracing for Ebola, there was one, we had a number. We said for every confirmed case, we need to have 10 to 12 contacts. We push our contact tracers to be able to identify that. What I'm proposing now is that for every confirmed case for corona, we need a minimum of 30 contacts. That's going to be the threshold we set because I've reviewed the infectivity of corona compared to Ebola realized it is much more infectious. We need to set ourselves a high bar and say we will not rest until we find the 30 contacts. The more contacts we can find, the more we can test, they will reduce the risk of the disease being spread. So this is where we stand. If I will take one last message to us, our ability to control this disease is going to be at our individual level decisions. That division is going to be encapsulated within the communities. So the community need to rise up, individuals need to make decisions when you get tested. The issue of using nose masks whenever you're in meeting, the issue of constant hand washing or using alcohol-based hand sanitizer. Thank you very much.
We'll now call on Dr. Francis Kete, Chief Medical Officer of the Republic of Liberia, followed by Colonel Marvin Sakor, 102 for Operations Joint Security.
Thank you so much. And to members of the press and the audience out there, you all are aware that I'm vertically challenged. But today I have to improvise for my disability. Now that I'm far from you all, I can bring down my mask. So today, you listen to the minister, and as usual, she used the opportunity to talk about things that we all need to do to be saved. Let me begin by putting 2 things forth. COVID-19 is not a death warrant. COVID-19 is not a death warrant. What it is that you have, as an individual, you have a pen and a key. You can use that pen to sign your own death warrant, or you can use the key to open the door and walk outside and become a survivor. And so please do not be afraid. The data are out there. 80% of those that come down with this disease are kind of mild. They may not even feel anything much, and so forth. 20%, yes, will have some issue. Of that 20%, only 5% will have some severe problem. And that 5% is based on a couple of things. One, your age, and other diseases that you may have. Diabetes, hypertension, immunocompromised, and so forth. So please, people should not be afraid. Do not be afraid. Please come out, and you can use the two things that you have in your hand, your pen and your key. With that being said, let us go through the update for today. So, as usual, we'll start with a global outlook, look at the current status. Remember the last time we talked about the modeling and the predictability, the way forward, and then questions. So, I bring back this slide because it's very important. We are stressing public awareness and testing. The best way to contain this, even if we have to, we will have to do testing and testing and testing and testing. This is how we're going to get those that are needed, those that are seeding the disease and spreading it, and that is the way to break the transmission. Remember, in Ebola, within 3 to 5 days, if someone had Ebola, as clinicians will determine, because that person will talk very, very well, but they cannot carry their body weight because of the nerve ending that are impacted. So they will either be lying down or someone will be holding them when they are talking. But with this disease, you can become an asymptomatic carrier. So you may move around and so forth and you don't know. And this is why some of the actions we are taking, we are doing that. Social distancing is a priority. Again, mandatory mask. The minister talked about it. You don't have to go and buy and use N95 or the surgical mask. Here I am, I'm using my typically made Liberian mask. And you can even be, creative about it. This one has a little sponge in between. So there is a cloth at the face part of it, behind there's a cloth, but there's a little sponge that serves as a filter. So, Liberians are creative and innovative. So you can do that. And again, only this body is clothed with the authority to announce results and what is going on. Next. So from the global picture, there are just a few things you need to know. Up to yesterday, there were 2.4 million confirmed. It has increased now, globally. More than 73,000 persons. And if you talk, I was looking at the population of Grand Crew, the population of Maryland, and so forth. Just imagine an entire county is wiped out. And this is what is happening. But please, that number should not frighten you. Anyone sitting out there, if you want to know the fatality rate of this disease, just factor in the 2.4 billion, use the 73, almost the 74 million, divide that by the 4.3 million. That will give you, and multiply by 100. That will give you a fatality rate. So whenever you see that, just factor that in, and that will tell you the rate at which this is fatal. And this is it's not as bad, even though there are lives that are lost, but we can all contain it, and we talked about some of the things that will lead to that. Next. So we bring that to closer to us. We look at Cote d'Ivoire. Cote d'Ivoire have 916 as of yesterday. They may increase. Guinea 688 as of yesterday. And Liberia now is 105. We added 2 to that. So again, we are doing everything possible to make sure that things go well. Next. So where are we? Case and death summary. In Montserrat County, this is what have happened. And so, what we have here is that you look at the new suspected and high risk. So in Montserrat County, 3, Nima County 6, Sino, we stay in the process of reclassifying those of active, and so we have 33 that are high risk that we are looking into. Laboratory confirmation, it is there. The total we have, this has been announced by the minister and Mosoka Fala, we are at 105. Total deaths have gone up to that. Next. So, this is the graph that everyone started asking for. What is the epigraph? How is this going and so forth? And you see us, we are going up. Please, not because we are going up so you have to panic. Do not panic. What this is telling us is that there is a community transmission. There is a local transmission. And for every time we get one confirmed case, that confirmed case has already contacted 1 or 2 or 3 persons. So the possibility of we getting additional cases are very high. And this is why testing is very, very critical. And as we do that, we're going to reach to a point where we now begin to break the curve like we did during Ebola. And I showed that to you. And you saw how we broke the curve. We broke that thing and just went down and flew down. And we are capable of doing that. Next. So, again, health workers. It is important that we talked about health workers. As it is now, we have, this is the total amount. Okay, for Sino, like I said, we have to do a reclassification. In Sino, initially, we were told 15, now we think there is 1 or 2, but tomorrow we'll give you the definitive. If that happens, that decreases the total amount of health workers now that are at risk. For those alive, about 31, and you have 1 that is dead. And one of the things that happen is that when an individual Liberian dies, it pains us because as a ministry, our role is to make sure that everyone in Liberia live and survive. And so if one person dies, it affects us. And just imagine someone who has trained to fight a disease and died in the process of fighting this disease. I mean, it becomes so painful. Yesterday, our brother was buried, and again, we want to publicly express our deepest condolences to the family, and we will continue to discuss with them as we move forward. Next. You saw this graph, and this graph is going to come as often as possible. So here we are again. We look at the country. Now, we have Greenville is involved, Grand Crew, like you know of, Tapeta, and we should have another change in Tapeta very soon. There is another case from Tapeta, not from Tapeta, but from Nima County. So that is in Ganta. And so that will have 3 dots tomorrow if you see this graph. But you look at Moserado County, this is where the seeding is coming from. The seeding is coming from Moserado County. And if we can control Moserado County, but it is not out of Moserado County. The next. So, it's not out of Moserado County. If you look at this is the granular aspect of what we have to deal with. What we are trying to do is that looking at targeted approach. So our approach is beginning the next few days, we'll be looking at these areas and we'll come and discuss what we intend to do and how we're going to do it. But you will be informed. And this is why we are letting you know as a general public. When we are doing this is not a death warrant. So don't be afraid. What we're trying to do is to save every one of us, to save you, to save your family, to save the country, so that we can all get over this nightmare. So as it stands now, we have about 26 persons being discharged from our treatment unit. 26, that's 25 plus 1. 1 was good. Like we said, there are people who are ill, and until you take the test of them, then you realize they have COVID. And so that 1 person was being treated for something else, and then he or she was tested and realized that was COVID positive, and based on that, another line of treatment was done, and now this person has survived. So again, this is not a death warrant. You have the pin and the key. Next. So, next week, Monday, you are going to get the whole aspect of the modeling, because I know everyone looking forward to it. But what are some of the parameters that come into it? So, there are a lot of beliefs around a particular disease or a particular thing. There are actions you have to take in order to change some of those beliefs and how you approach it. You have to look at the data, you have to do a lot of observation, and then you have to, based on certain parameters, selective on the kind of data you're going to use, and then you have to define and redefine where you want to get, and then you put in all of these assumptions. And after these assumptions, you can come up with a conclusion. So what you're doing is that you are coming up with a logical conclusion to determine what is the worst scenario. If nothing is done, what will happen? If something is done, how can we change that? So we are putting in all of these assumptions, all of these beliefs and everything, and we'll come up with something very soon. Next. So we can tell you, and those, because you have a lot of brilliant Liberians, what we're going to use is the SERR mathematical modeling. SERR mathematical modeling is what we're going to use. The S is susceptible population, E exposed population, R infectious population, R recovered population. And what is driven by this is the reproduction number. And if you put that into it, it gives you different parameter on what's going to happen. Next. So in order for us to get to that zero that we're looking for, there are a couple of things we have to do, and we can begin them now so that we cannot go to the extreme. So, enforcing public mask wearing. We have to do that. If we do that, definitely we can change the reproduction number. We can change that. Reinforce social distancing, markets, banks, etc. Those are some of the things that we need to do, and those are not things we have to do tomorrow. We can begin it. Some of us started it, and we can continue to do that. And the more we do it, the better it is. Continue hand washing with soap and water. And also you can use a sanitizer. Those are things we need to do continuously, and that will change the process of the worst scenario. Isolation of the confirmed cases within 12 hours instead of some of the things that we do now, because there are some people that are hiding and so forth. So the sooner we begin to isolate people, the better it is in terms of how we hit our zero. So, how can it be accomplished? So, for this to be accomplished, it takes the political will. Yes, we have the political will. The leadership is with us, is working along with us. The legislators just took an action. Law enforcement are doing their job. But also, with the political will, we ourselves have to be willing to do those things, because we cannot police every home, we can't police everywhere. You have to be willing to do the right things in order for us to get to zero. We have the technicians, and our job is to have the sleepless night. You rest and do your part. We are going to have the sleepless night to make sure that we put all of these things into perspective, looking at the scientific aspect of it, and then approaching the political leaders to make the right call at the right time. But one of the key factors, even with all of the things that we have to do, finances is very important. We know that people, feel that whenever there is a disease, oh, it's money, 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 money. There are a lot of things that are involved. There are people that risk their life that are out there. You need vehicles. You need basic things, PPEs and other things. There are logistical challenges that we have now. So all of these things take into consideration finances. So when the financial aspect comes in, it makes it easier. Remember during Ebola, there was so much money coming in because the international countries, our brothers and sisters, wanted us to keep it here. So all of the financial resources were brought in. Now they are going through their own thing. So it is tough. But again, we have the key and the pen. We can determine when to end this and how we move forward. And if we can do that, that leads us to the triangular decision that will help us to get to zero. So again, no handshaking. You know, just remember when we started, we didn't want to handshake, we were bumping. Now we are telling you, no bumping. We have to maintain social distance. And if we can do that, definitely, and using mask, the next time you see the mask picture in there, if we can do all of these things, and then we can change the course of this whole thing. Again, you have the key and you have the pen. You can determine whether this is going to be your death warrant, or you can use that key and open the door to your own survivability. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Dr. Kita. Let me remind all of you again that the wearing of masks is important in the fight against COVID-19. Before I call on the Honorable Colonel Marvin Sakor from the Joint Security, who will be addressing a number of issues like we saw in some of the little media houses around, trucks loaded with goods stuck at various county points. The minister made a little bit of reference to that. If you don't have a reason to pack a truck full of food to go to a county, you're not supposed to be doing that, because we are not supposed to leave one county into the other county except for Montserrado and Magibi, that is considered one unit. So again, he will be addressing himself to most of those things and people being in compliance. Colonel Sakor.
Good afternoon. I want to say thank you to Minister Facon. Before I start, first thing I want to say this to our Muslim brothers and our sisters that are observing the holy month of Ramadan. We ask that they pray for the country and save the world. So, in observing that, we ask that the mosques remain closed, that they observe the holy month at their homes, and ask Allah to save our nation. I understand that we understand that the situation is very stressful due to the fact that it affects our day-to-day activities. But we also want to say this: we have to continue to work together as a team, as Liberians, in making sure we continue the spread of the virus and save our nation. I want to commend the communities who have gotten involved in making sure that their community are protected. We ask that they work very closely with the health authorities and that of the joint security. But at 1500, which is 3 p.m., they have to go indoor. So you can go ahead and protect the community by making sure people are washing their hands. But also, some of the water, we don't know where they got it from. So if you have a hand sanitizer, I ask that you can also use it. So if the person or the individual that come into your community choose to use a hand sanitizer, I think that is okay. The enforcement continues. Due to the limited amount of time that residents have to actually be out, we are starting to see an increase in the amount of our people who are out at the banks, markets, and other businesses. But what we are saying is that our people should continue to observe the health protocol, make sure they are washing their hands, they're wearing their masks, and also observing the social distancing, which is very important. The joint security will continue to carry on enforcement, making sure that our people are actually doing the right thing. But one thing we want to say that from the joint security, I personally, and I think all the heads of those institutions involved, we are against any form of violence against our citizens, but equally so that the citizens have to respect the rule of law and desist from actually attacking those officers. We had a situation in West Point a couple of days ago where an officer went there to talk to our people in a very civil manner, and they chose to be in defiance, and that resulted into our officer being attacked and injured in the process. But notwithstanding, we stay exercise our high level of restraint tolerant. We did not retaliate, but we went there to make sure our people will continue to do the right thing. Because you know that it's clear that our people are not used to the kind of situation. So it is our job to actually, in a much by enforcing, to make sure that we are doing awareness and speaking to the conscience of our people that they have to continue to abide by the health protocol. It doesn't mean we are weak. We are not weak, but I think in this time of national crisis, they say our people got to say that fire cannot put a fire, but we'll continue to enforce, we'll continue to be robust, we'll continue to be vigilant, but also our approach will be very civil, and as I said, we'll continue to speak to the conscience of our people, which I think is very important. On the issue of the counties, I think Mr. Falcon spoke about this, that UNIL, Monserrato, and MICAT is quarantined together. Every other counties have to observe the health protocol, and if you don't have any reason to cross to another county, please, to avoid any embarrassment, stay within your county. We are seeing a long lines of individual and commercial or private vehicles that are moving within the counties, and the joint security has instructed our joint security officer to include the armed forces of Liberia that those who do not have the pass or passes to actually go to other counties should not be allowed to. You cannot get one bag of coal and put it in the back of a vehicle and tell that you are using it because you're going to go cook your food. No, that's not what we're saying. But if you have a larger quantity of food and other commodities that need to go to the counties, we will actually accept that. But be on one condition: if actually you have a proper identification and you have been given the green light to actually go about freely. And it shouldn't be abused, because there's a time to that. We don't expect you to be in the street from 6 a.m. to 6 a.m. the next morning because you have been given the pass. Also, with the issue of the passes that have been issued, we are seeing that people are abusing it, even with those institutions that the president made mention of, that were captured in the SOE declaration. You cannot tell me if you work at Ministry of Finance that you are up 12 million working. That's impossible. So what we want to say is this. In a mesh, we allow you after 1,500 hours, but there's a specific time we expect for you to be home. For technical or staff of institutions like the Orange and Lone Star, we understand that they have towers that might have some technical issues that they need to go and repair at certain times of the night. I think we can understand that because they are technicians. For example, LEC, Water and Soil, some other technical institutions, we will work around that. But what we would not do to allow people to abuse those passes that have been given to them. I had a situation last night where a few individuals that I'm not going to name on board a vehicle to be staff of an institution that were capturing the president SOE were out almost 12 midnight looking for what I don't even know. And I had to pack them, I kept them there for a couple of hours, spoke with them, and allowed them to go. But I hope that it's not repeated. And the issue of the markets, we started to do something totally different. Now, if you go to Douala, the red light, you'll see that we are discouraged street selling. But the issue is that we still seeing a large amount of our population out into these markets and actually not observing the health protocol. So the only thing we can say is this: until we can continue to fix the issue, address the issue, please make sure you're wearing your mask, which is very important. We are starting to see an increase in the production of the local made masks by Taylor Union, and I think some of them have been sold for like $40, $11, some of them $111. Please try to buy it. I was going through my Facebook post or timeline, and one of my friends posted this, and I thought to share with our people. A mask is better than a ventilator. Home is better than an ICU. Prevention is better than cure. And it's not a curfew, but it's that the government care for you. I think that is true enough. Even during this time of medical crisis, we are still starting to see some increase in some criminal activities. So we are asking the communities, if you have issue, if you see something, say something. We have provided our hotline or our command post or contact. I will give that to the public again, 0770-800-990, 0770-800-990, or 0770-800-911. That's the number of our command post and our own LMP call center. Also, at the different zones and depots, we have 11 zones, and we have our command structure who have contacts. I'm going to give that out. You can call any of those numbers, and definitely they will actually link you to the right authorities. So you can call 07 for zone 1, you can call 0770-800-501. For zone 2, 0770-800-502. For zone 3, 0770-800-503. For zone 4, 0770-800-504. Zone 5, 0770-800-505. Zone 6, 0770-800-506. Zone 7, 0770-800-507. Zone 8, 0770-800-508. Zone 9, 0770-800-509. Zone 10, 0770-800-510. Zone 11, 0770-800-511. You can call any of those numbers and you should be able to get some assistance. But if not, you can still call my operation number. I'm usually up very late. Or you can call any of my deputies. You can call 0770-800-105. He's my immediate deputy. You can call 0770-800-112. It's just the last 3 digits that changed. So it's the same 0770-800. You can call 112. You can call 125. You can call 117. You can call 142. You can call 109, 105, 102. That's me. And you'll be able to get somebody to help you out. So if you're from zone 1, for example, zone 3 is the Commander Belt, and you cannot get hold of that zone commander, you can still call another zone commander and we will actually link you, because it's a joint security effort, it's a team effort. We will be able to come to your rescue, which is very important. We'll continue to say this. We are putting our people in the community after 1,500 hours. I understand that some of the residents don't have electricity, and it's kind of a hack. But what we are saying, if you stay on your post, be on your post. Please leave the street. It is very frustrating that the Johnson Security carry on a patrol, and you'll see our people who actually, or try to leave. As soon as you leave the community, they come right back, which is very, very much wrong. We don't want to be seen as a unit or force that is brutalizing citizens, but equally so too, I want to say this, there's consequences for your actions. And if we will protect the nation, and one person will bear the consequences, we will have no regret for to do that. But notwithstanding, we're going to continue to engage our people in a very civil manner, because we are a civil law enforcement institute. But notwithstanding, during the crisis time where a state of emergency has been declared, we have to enforce the law to the fullest. So please abide by the health protocol. And another thing before I close off, we are starting to see more vehicles in the street. Even approaching the 3 p.m. windows, we still seeing traffic around the city. If you have no reason to be out, please leave the street. Because after 1500, which is 3 p.m., so 3 p.m., there's an issue. So again, we want to say thank you to the government, to our international partners, to the Johnson Security and the health team for helping to control this situation. With that, I close up, and Allah grant us mercy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commander Sakor. We're going to entertain your questions, and while you take to the queue for your questions, I would like to also advise that you be an accredited journalist. So as you make your way up, like I said, just a few things to touch on. The compulsory mask is not something that we're pushing against you. My able deputy, we will have a press release here from the Ministry of Information, Cultural Affairs and Tourism. We'd like to state that the reason why we're pushing the masks, the issue of wearing your mask, is in count 2. I always like to show the evidence. In count 2 of the legislative resolve, it is clearly stated that all persons appearing in public streets and buildings must wear a protective device that covers at least the nose and the mouth. You, the members of the media, will be my witness. On Monday, we stressed that. Today is Thursday, we're stressing it. So when Colonel Marvin Sakor and his team decides to go after people in the street for not wearing masks, we don't want criticism from any corner to say people were not informed. It has been done in the various vernaculars. It has been done on the news. Again, we want to be clear. When my able deputy come here, you will see a release from the Ministry of Information. We will write out announcements to this effect. We will carry it to radio stations, because when the Joint Security decides to enforce the issue of wearing a mask, we don't want any criticism, especially from some of our friends in the diaspora, because a mask does not have to be one you can wear. It can be your own little shirt that you tore up. Just cover your nose and your mouth. And that is why the legislature was clear when they said that all persons, quote, appearing in public streets and buildings must wear a protective device. So that, I'm sure they carefully chose their word, so that when you take your little old cloth and cover your mouth and your nose, or you take your hair tie or your handkerchief, nobody can say they say mask. No, they were clear, a protective device. That's the first point that I want to stress. Second thing here is It has come to our attention that individuals approaching the checkpoints of the joint security that are not on emergency duties or having an emergency during rush hours, you are on speed. The lives of our men and women in uniform matters. So when you approach the checkpoint with excessive speed, then of course you're not only in violation now of your 1,500 hours, but you're also speeding. Please, if you're not supposed to be in the street, as he said, get out and get out in time. The last thing, the community washing hands and our youths. It has come to our attention that some of you will intentionally stop operators of the vehicle, demand that they wash their hand, and then start asking them for money. No, you're not supposed to ask anybody for money, and nobody owes you a dime. If you don't want to volunteer, you're not supposed to be there. Let the person give you anything on their free will, but stop demanding monies from people at those hand-washing community checkpoints. Again, we will entertain the questions from you members of the media, and then the Honorable Daniel Lukes Thomas will read out the press release from MICAT and close us up. And please state clearly to whom your question is addressed.
Good afternoon. I have two questions. One is, we as a national public institute and of the Ministry of Health Princess Getting. I want to be charged with the responsibility to check the RMS, that's the incident management system. Then my second question goes to my NPHIL. I want to know, is the president really working at commercial banks and marketplaces around in terms of the social distancing? Because on my way from Broadway this morning, I stopped at various banks and then see people still around themselves because I want to know you being the Deputy Director for Operation at NPHIL. I'm going to please make sure clarity on that. My name is Lawrence Cameron, and I work for Very Power Broadway City.
Good afternoon. I'm Julius Stanton, I recruit for KMT. Few questions.
Julius, just a minute. Lawrence, did I hear you say who's responsible to check the incident management system? Who's responsible to chair? All right, thank you.
Thank you once more for the opportunity. My first question is to Dr. Fowler. I stand to be corrected, but maybe you say the draft 2 testing. What is the draft 2 testing based on correct? I'd like you to provide further information and clarity on that. And another clarification from NEMA, counter interpreter. Did you really say the 2 cases or the 2 persons died? If so, I would like to know the number of total confirmed deaths. And we have 105 cases. The last time we were here, we were at 99. The additional cases, I would also like to know where are they specifically coming from. And to Marion Saka, you talked about the increment of late since the crisis in crimes. Will you specify the areas and the specific crimes we are talking about? Thank you.
Well, let me erect a checkpoint there. You said the last time we were here, we were at 90 cases. We were not at 90. 99. Okay. All right.
Well, my name is Barton Calvin, and I work for Joy. My first question goes to the NPHIL board. I'm concerned about those that were discharged on yesterday, 13 persons. And the first in that case, we saw the victim going to like 1 month and another additional 2 weeks to observation. But unlike those, some of those that were discharged on yesterday, and they spent 2 weeks at the treatment center.
So I'm asking as to whether we can safely say that Liberia now has a medication to treat people in just 2 weeks. And another question goes to the to those who are concerned, the incident management system. Maybe Dr. Keta can answer that question. We are hearing that Dr. Masuka Fala has assumed his office as chair of IMF. How can you confirm this information that is circulating on social media?
Well, thank you very much. My name is Nadia Diaz-Pan, and I'm good for WAP TVW. My first question we have to do is directly addressed to health authority. Across the country, private and public health facilities are complaining of lack of drugs. So my question is, it does not have the propensity to undermine the fight against COVID-19 within our country as we want to go this fight? Next question I have to do with, as we observe World Malaria Day, what do we need to do to protect ourselves against malaria in a critical time wherein the sound of COVID-19 is fever and also the sound of malaria is fever?
Thank you so much. I'm Damal Sana from LBS, and my question goes to the health authorities. My question is about the local made labs. I just wanted to please give me a clarification of the safety of these masks on your word.
Please stay in the queue if you want to ask a question.
Good afternoon. I'm David. I'm reporting on this paper. Any of you can answer the question from the officials. Since the president declared a state of emergency in recent times, we observe that citizens are reneging on inherent law. The nation has been moving with a authority and has enshrined within the president's state of emergency. So I'm concerned, I want to know, why are citizens reneging on inherent laws of the nation for the safety of all? It is that the government is weak on imposing the measure as insurance against state of emergency, or it is a conflicting statement related on key government official staff. Now these days, citizens are not denying the existence of the virus. Another one has to do with churches and mosques. Recently, I'm listening to the Congress minister mandating all daily material stores to reopen. And when the president was speaking, he listed those non-essential business. The health minister came for health state of emergency, declared the virus as health emergency. She said churches and mosques will be closed. Now, if you go right, you go around, you will see other daily material stores, they are now open operating up to 3. Are there plans for the church and mosque to reopen like we have our brothers, the Islamic faith, who is now investing their health?
Thank you very much. I think the last one will be my own, and that is the one you ask. We provided on April 18 a press release, and in that press release, signed by Honorable Len Eugene Nangbe on April 18, I'm going to quote just maybe the first two to inform you on the issue you raised relative to the Commerce Minister, that he somehow mandated the building material stores to open. So on April 18, we gave you a press release that stated, the government of Liberia, through the Disaster Management Agency, empathizes with Liberians who were hugely affected by the overnight storm that has caused devastation in several neighborhoods across Monrovia and surrounding counties. The government is assessing the nature of the damage in order to make interventions in designated areas where it is deemed that the destruction were heaviest, and it affected the already vulnerable population. Meanwhile, in the wake of the natural disaster, building material stores have been placed in the essential business category and will be allowed to open from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. every day except Sundays for the next 2 weeks. This is necessary to allow affected residents to buy needed supplies in order to take care of repair works. However, anyone caught hoarding during this period will face the full weight of the law. Signed. So again, it was not the Commerce Minister. It was as a result of the storm that devastated our places. And so the president, being sensitive, immediately ordered that building material stores be placed within the essential category so as to address the repair needs of our people. So, let's come to the point where you ask that whether or not our government was weak with respect to enforcement relative to the state of the nation, state of emergency that you talk about. We don't believe that we are weak for one bit. We are sensitive to the plight of our people in every way, shape, and form. That does not in any way register weakness, it registers sensitivity. Having said that, our people have been compliant from 3 o'clock. The legislature has resolved and extended the state of emergency, and the rest of these issues remain enforced and is being enforced every step of the way. Now, with respect to whether the citizens have chosen to disregard and have total disrespect for the orders issue, or if you like, under the state of emergency, I'll leave that question to your microphone to be taken on the streets and begin asking the people, why are you not in adherence to certain announcements made by the government relative to the health protocols? For example, people were asked to allow one person per family, to come out and stay out for maybe an hour for essential matters. So are we having one person from a family or the whole family getting out? These are things your microphone will be helpful. If it gets out to the people committing that, I cannot answer for them. But I think we're also sensitive to the plight of our people in the enforcement of the state of emergency for the benefit of our people generally. With that said, I'd like to invite Dr. Masoka Fala, if he has any question there to handle, to please come to the microphone and address it. While Dr. Fala makes his way up, we would like to remind you to begin looking for your protective device to cover your nose and your mouth, at least, before getting out in public or using public spaces and buildings.
Issue of masks. So what the Chinese really did was they created a guideline to look at the different usage of masks. The N95 mask really has been established for those that are in higher era of exposure. People working in the treatment unit, people working with high risk contact, those are the ones that need the N95 mask. It tends to protect. Most of the other masks, where the surgical mask can be used in meeting, and then the cloth masks have been used to use areas that have lower risks. You got to understand the mechanics behind the use of masks. The disease spread by direct contact or on surfaces. The natural tendency for all human beings to touch your mouth and face, and so the mask has been, from a psychological point of view, known that it protects that. So the first thing it does for you. The second thing is that, so it has been used. China, they use it very historically. We cannot afford to have everyone use the N95 masks because those that are at a higher risk has to use it, and so it's established. The literature out there is controversial. Some people say it offers little protection. Others say it does. And so the literature is still out there. What we're trying to do, looking at some of the studies from China, we're trying to work on MPHIL trying to work on the next couple of days, looking at different environment for which. But low-risk environment, if you keep your 6 feet apart and with our glove marks, it could better suffice. What we don't want people using is for them to use the N95 marks, because we really need it for those that are in the treatment unit, those that are in the working with the close contact and high-risk contact, because that's where you are in a very hostile environment. But if you keep your 6 feet apart, your social distance, your glove marks, that could suffice. I will leave the issue of the 13th discharge with Dr. Kete to handle from that point of view, while one group were kept longer than the other group. All we got to say is that human beings vary. Some people have shorter time, some people have longer time. He will speak more to that. But there are conditions before we can discharge you. The condition is that you should have 2 negative, back-to-back consecutive. If you have 1 negative and a positive, they have to repeat. And then your symptom must resolve themselves. Those are the conditions. And he will speak more and more to that. Yes, we did say that the 2 cases from Nima died. And so one thing Labro has been doing, and we see this misconception going out at large. While Liberia seems to be having more higher case fatality, some people go ahead and explain. What we are doing in Liberia is that we are testing all dead bodies, unlike any other country. And so that's the reason why we tend to have these cases. Most countries will not. What they will test technically will be those who died in the treatment unit. But we go ahead, whenever we hear of a death, we go and we swab the body and we test. And so these 2 cases came from Nima, where someone had presented to the hospital. One of them died in the community. And then the family alerted us, the team went there because of the sensitivity and tested that. That's what happened in Nima. The other 2 places, the other one is alive in Sino. And then the one in Grand Cru has a link to a case in Moserado. So the one in Grand Cru, basically, someone died and we alerted us, and we swabbed and took a swab of the person. Actually, the person was a Ghanaian. We decided to go check and realize, based on the investigation, the case investigation, that this person was working in Grand Cru, had been dismissed 5 days earlier and came to Moserado and died. Based on that information, we hired a special flight where my deputy flew into Grand Cru, and we realized that this person was working in a gold mine deep in the forest in Grand Cru. And so the team went there based on the case investigation. They identified 16 Chinese and 5 Liberians that own a gold mine as high risk. And our policy is that when you have high risk contact, you bring them to what we call a POC for observation. And then once we bring them to the observation, what we do is that at admission, we take a specimen and run a test. And when someone shows, so one of those who were tested in Grand Cru was a Chinese who tested positive. So the person was linked with a death in Monrovia, went back to find out the source, the potential source in Grand Cru, and those contacts were selected, and one of them became positive. That's how far the cases are. The rest of them are in Moserado. And so we have now 3 counties also in Moserado, but it's 1 and then 2 in Nima. The goal is now we call that kind of low-risk transmission. The way you want to do that is to ring-fence those 3 counties, ensuring that people don't leave Moserado to go, and then to ensure that those cases in those 3 counties don't turn from sporadic transmission to what we call community transmission or cluster transmission. So that's why everyone is working hard in those counties to ensure that the high-risk contacts are isolated. In Sino, the confirmed case has been isolated. The other people has been taken to treatment center, and the others are being quarantined to observe them. So this is the basic issue where we stand with where the cases are. The issue of the IMS, I'll leave it into Dr. Kete. So this is where we are. Our goal would be to keep the cases in Moserado by ring fencing them, and those cases that now have sporadic cases, to ensure that they do not, 1, export it for, they do not have new cases, and to ensure that they still are sporadic cases instead of them becoming community transmission as we have now in Moserado County. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much. So there were a few questions that we're cross-cutting. I think Dr. Musuka Fala talk on the safety of the use of masks. So I don't think I need to comment on that. In terms of chairmanship of IMS, I don't think I have the authority to talk on it. I think the right people to discuss that would be the Minister of Health and Madam Mary Brown. So those are the two persons that you can forward that to. In terms of the dead cases, we do have 9. We have 9. We have a case from Tapita, and there's one from Ganta. So in Nimba County, there are 2 dead, and the rest are from Osorado County. And again, as indicated, we have a case in Sino and a case in Grand Cru. So this is where we are in terms of that. I think those are the only questions that's the only question that I had to answer. The others, yeah.
Initially we have 8, according to that, we informed about. And except that you are telling us
Yes.
that the 2, 1 was as a result of the 8 and additional 1.
Sure. So what it is that, let me give you how the whole thing works. So if you look at our sit rep goes by 11:30 at night. Whatever information is when they begin to put in the information. Now, the lab have 2 shifts. So there's a shift that worked up to about 7, so we get results by 7 o'clock. That goes into the sit rep. And then another shift takes over during the morning hours. And so by morning hour, by 7 a.m., we do get additional results. So as of late last night, one of the cases from Ganta, is someone that is dead. Apparently, they took the person to the hospital, and in the process, that person died. So initially, the investigation started with Lassa, and then ran Lassa, and then COVID was positive. Yeah, so that makes it 2 dead from Nima County. There's 1 that is presently undergoing treatment. So from Nima County, you have a total of 3 cases.
The additional cases?
The additional cases come from Monrovia. Yeah, from here, yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Talk about the issue of malaria.
Oh, okay, sure. So when you talked about, if you look at most of our diseases, and like I always say here, this is why doctors, health workers are not sent cutter. Most of them will mimic similar symptoms. Let me tell you, if you do not have headache, if you don't have pain, you won't do anything much with your body. You see, let me give you an example of a disease. Leprosy. What leprosy does is that it affects the nerve burden. So someone who has leprosy can take their fingers, they can take their hands and put it in the fire. They won't feel any pain. And this is why they will have sore and they won't know, and sometimes they lost their digits and that is it. So most of the disease will give you similar signs and symptoms. Will give you fever. Malaria gives you fever. Now, in our differential diagnosis, you use what is prevalent. So for us, malaria is prevalent. So when anyone comes and start to complain that, look, I have fever, I have a headache, I sweat at night and so forth, the first thing you think about, okay, is this malaria? And based on that, you run your rapid test. It could be malaria versus something else. So the rapid test could come positive. Pardon? Oh, sure, yes. You can even have diabetes, you can have hypertension and other things and have COVID. So for example, one of the cases from Tapita has severe, was tested and has severe malaria and was treated for malaria. But at the same time, based on other symptoms, because when you do your differential diagnosis, there are a couple of things you have to follow. So yes, you may have fever and other things, but you may have difficulty breathing. So when you start to complain difficulty breathing, you're having dry cough, you are sneezing, then that change your differential diagnosis from malaria to what are we dealing with now? And so this is how it happens. Your history plays a major role.
Yeah, I asked about information circulation on social media.
Like I said, that is not a question that I can answer. Please, you can speak with the Minister of Health and Mrs. Mary Brown. Thank you.
Again, good afternoon. So I will speak on the first question that was posed to me. The issue of, I will talk about that. The first thing is the issue of at the banks. So what we have done is that there was a meeting that the NPHIL minister had with some of the bank's executive. I have also instructed, we have a BSPD, which is the bank security, to actually beginning tomorrow to be at those different banks, making sure that our people are observing the social distancing. And also, another thing I have been told that was put in place that the banks have decided to give a certain amount of ticket on a daily basis. So after that, the rest of their customers will have to leave the banks. The issue of a crime, usually people during our normal day-to-day activities before the state of emergency was declared. You will see too many businesses are open up to 12 midnight, 1, 2 a.m. So there are more people in the street. So that alone serves as a deterrence to those criminals who want to go out and get involved in criminals or act. So due to the fact that at 1500 everybody are confined to their homes or their communities, late at night, we are seeing those criminals are coming out, carrying on some criminal activity. Those are now actually the major ones, like breaking into cars and so forth. So that's the reason why I've given the 11 zones contacts, and also our patrol team are going to the community, making sure that our people, property, and their life are protected. I think that's the only two questions, right?
So this is burglary?
Yeah, burglary, and at some level too, in certain area there's also armed robbery, still here. But as I said, we are getting involved in more foot patrols in the different communities to actually address those issues. Any other question? I think that should be it. All right, thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Let me relieve the minister now. I think he's already played his role, so I will be closing the press briefing for today. But before I do, I want to say thank you to the Minister of Health and our team for the update. These updates are intended to help us understand what's the situation as it relates to what is happening with our COVID-19 fight. I have a press release here by the Director of the Minister of Information, on behalf of the Government of Liberia and the Health Authority, that I'm going to be reading to you, my dear colleagues in the press. And I hope and pray that we can abide by these measures that are placed here. And after this reading, I will also have copies available to the brothers and sisters of the Food Estate, which time you can have access to them. Please lend me your ears. Monrovia, Liberia, April 23rd, 2020. The government of Liberia, through the health authorities, wishes to inform and advise all citizens and residents within the Republic of Liberia to adhere to count 2 of the modified resolution, which calls for all persons appearing in public streets and buildings to wear protective device that covers at least the nose and mouth, in keeping with the regulation under the state of emergency. The government encourages all persons within the 15 counties to adhere to all health protocols announced by the Minister of Health and the regulations contained in the address delivered by His Excellency President Dr. George Managia on April 10th, 2020. The public is advised that by wearing a protective device that covers at least your nose and mouth when you are out of your homes protects against the risk of infecting others and infecting yourself. The measure and other related health protocols are crucial in a fight against COVID-19 and must be adhered to at all times. Meanwhile, motorcyclists, pimping riders, commercial vehicle operators are advised to disinfect their vehicles, motorcycles, pimping, etc., as often as possible to avoid passengers from contracting the virus. Finally, the measure is part of government's broader strategy to ensure public health safety for our citizens and slow or contain the spread of coronavirus in our country. This was signed by Daniel Nuch Thomas, Assistant Minister for Information Services, MICAT. With that being read, like I said, the release will be made available to you here in the press, which I think is already been ongoing. I just want to close up this briefing with, first of all, let me say thank you to our colleagues there from the 4th Estate for your usual support as it relates to coverage with regards to our media briefings. And we want you to know that we at MICAT, we will always stand by you in these times, and you can assure our support is with you. And a quick reminder, our usual press briefings is always Monday and Thursday, so that date remains the same. It's unchanged. Mondays and Thursdays. And I have a very interesting information for you guys in the media. We have noticed with grave concern that there has been some compromising in our passes that have been issued you. There are a lot of duplications on the market. I mean, too many people have the pass, and sometimes at the checkpoints, you just find like everybody showing police that they're from the media and from this place and that place. So we have made ready an enhanced feature of the pass that is intended to protect you guys in the media. That's not going to be duplicated, no way. However, they try. So the minister in the next press briefing will give you updates on as to when these passes will be made available to you. But we just want you to know that we are aware of the challenges that you are faced with regards to, the access pass, and in a jiffy, it's going to be resolved. So on behalf of my minister here, Minister Eugene Fagon, and the entire team there at MICAT, I want to say thank you all for being in attendance today. And rest assured, next Monday we will be here with a fresh edition of regular press briefing. Thank you very much. Let us remain safe, continue to wear your mask, stay off the streets when you don't have anything to do, and Liberia is going to get through this. I thank you.
So that's it. So, folks, many thanks for following us as usual on our regular briefing as you listen to the duty bearers, the technicians as we speak in the Republic of Liberia. Just a summary, we have 105 confirmed cases as of April 23, 2020, and we have 9 deaths, 26 recoveries as of today, and about 1,423 contacts and testing so far have been done. So please keep safe, and together we can make our country, Liberia, better. Many thanks for following this broadcast. Godfrey Nana Badu Kwanzaa and I'm Julius Compton.